Good morning, everyone. We're going to do this. This is beautiful, Annisquam Lighthouse in Gloucester. Beautiful beach, beautiful setting, and this is a great perspective on it. So, all right, we're going to start with the drawing here. As usual, very light. This is a 4B pencil, very light, so you can erase it easily. But all we're doing here, we're not drawing the lighthouse really. We're just placing the shapes. Very light, go in very lightly so you can erase it easily if you want to. But you just placing the shapes on your paper, whatever size it is, you can make it fit. But you want that center of interest, which is the lighthouse, to be in a comfortable spot for the viewer. So you place that first and then work out your other composition, leading into the painting and whatever, placing those shapes so that they're comfortable and they work for you and they lead the viewer right to your subject, okay? All right, so there's the rocks and all that. So once you do this very lightly, you can then go in and start drawing the details, which we will do. First, you want to make sure that it works. Notice that I place my lighthouse a little bit to the left so that it creates a diagonal going into the lighthouse. All right, this is a close-up of the drawing. That's the little pin on top. So over here, pay attention to the distance between the bottom of the canopy and the top. Very small. A lot of artists, a lot of students make it very big, so it's too pointed. So you can see there's not much space there. It's an ellipse. You're looking up at it. This is a solid lighthouse. Notice that the right side of the canopy of the light tower is blocked in, and that's because it's a residential area. There's houses on this side, so they don't want the light, which goes around, to be shining onto the people's houses all the time. But there's windows, as you can see on the left, which is how the ships, and you'll see it. Just drawing the roof on that little entryway. It's a very unique lighthouse. Sits on a beautiful location. If you get a chance and you're in Gloucester, you should go out to see it. It's in Norwood Woods in Annisquam. Very beautiful spot. There's a railing there. There's a walkway going out to the lighthouse. There's a close-up of the rocks. And you don't want to draw every rock, you just want a suggestion. You want to look at it for inspiration. You can see how it is nice that it walks into it. There's the rocks are laid out nicely, so you can just walk your way into it. They're different shapes and different sizes. Always don't get caught up on, in doing everything, all the rocks the same. They begin to look like biscuits on the beach, Okay, so just, take your time, draw it out, suggestion. You don't have to be, you're not drawing portraits here, just making suggestions on where these shapes lay and how they lay with your composition. You want this Everything's about the composition here. Notice that, you know, mostly I draw, I'm showing you the level of the rocks on the right, how they relate to the lighthouse and the rocks in the lighthouse. So it's a beautiful wall of rocks on the right there. And they're important because they come they come forward in your composition, and you know, at the same time set those other rocks back. Okay. All right, so that's the layout basically of it. Big rocks in the front, nice diagonal leading you to the lighthouse, and then you have this big huge tree on the right above the rocks. Be careful of that. It's so easy to have that dominate. All right, I'm wetting the sky here. Beautiful Windsor blue or phthalo blue sky. And I wet it first, as you can see, so it'll run down. It's going to be much heavier in color on the top. So, you know, I'm putting in some layers of Windsor blue and just letting it run down onto that water that I put in there, so that it's much lighter on the bottom. Little drips here and there. Okay, we'll pull that down. But you can see much more color on the top. And Windsor blue dries very light, so I'm going to put another layer in here. You can't put too much, believe me, it looks it, but squeeze out some nice fresh Windsor blue on your palette and put it in there and let it come down. Notice I'm not going back to my palette to get more color. I'm just, you know, it's just water, very light touch. And just letting that come down. Okay, that's going to dry very light. All right, this is really the beach. This is raw sienna with rose, and then you add blue, and the blue will turn it a grayish color. So depending on how gray you want that beach to be, and you can see I'm adding a little more blue here, and then I add a little more raw sienna. I like to get the variation in color, so that it's not, you know, it appears to be, you know, it appears to be lit differently, you know, and that's what you want. And you get that by, changing the color and the values. So that's the beach, and now we're gonna, you know, once that dries, we'll put the rocks on top of that. Bring that right down. You can see the nice variations in color. All right, I'm adding that. There's some, you know, there's some beach grass or moss or whatever it is on the beach, and I'm putting it in first with, this is raw sienna, but it's very thick, very heavy, and now I'm gonna, and you can see I'm creating some texture with it as I put it on with my brush. And then I'm gonna mix up, add some ultramarine to it and make some dark color to show the turn of it and how it sits on the beach. There you go. So that's the same color. I just added some ultramarine to it. Maybe a little touch of quinacridone sienna to get that dark color, and just get that. That's the beach grass sitting on the beach, okay? Small part of the painting, but You want it to look real. All right, so now we're going to get in and paint the rocks. Now the rocks are a combination of raw sienna, quince sienna. I actually added a drop of Aurelian yellow there to show there's a very light spot on those rocks hitting right there. And then there's more raw sienna here. And now I'm going to go in with a damp brush and pick up some of that raw sienna so that it shows some light hitting that rock right there. All right. And I'm just going to, there's a little quince sienna, warm that rock up. And now I'm doing the rocks on the right, those big rocks. Raw sienna, quince sienna, raw sienna. You know, just letting it run right down the rock, the whole shape, painting the whole shape, adding some water up there where it's lighter, where the sun is hitting that edge, adding a little more raw sienna here, and then as it comes down to these dark rocks, you know, they're very dark because the tide comes in and wets them constantly and turns them that dark sour color. So okay, you can see that's a little quince sienna. Very dark, adding some water, just wet, let it come down. I'm trying to build some light spots on where the sun is hitting those rocks, and then some darker areas. Just putting that paint on. There's another rock up there. Goes into the trees. And now I'm taking a credit card here and very, very lightly squeegee down the rock using the texture of your paper. Don't dig into your paper because that creates scars. This is a very light touch here. You know, wipe it off here now and then. Just creating the edges of the rock where the light is hitting it, and you're using the texture of the paper to create this beautiful texture of the rock. So I'm giving you a close-up here, and you can see it really is a beautiful technique. Problem with all techniques are they're fun to do, and because they're fun, you have a tendency to overdo it, so be careful here. But it's a wonderful technique to master when you're doing a lot of rocks. All right, I'm going in with a much darker color here. This is quince sienna with ultramarine mixed in for those very dark corners of the rocks, dark edges. Again, these are all, you know, these rocks are constantly being wet by the tide coming in. And there's a crevice here. Beautiful chance to shape those various boulders. So it's quince sienna and ultramarine blue, but it's pushed towards the quince sienna, so you can see it's a warmer dark. It's not black, it's just a very warm dark color that will work really well. All right, this rock is very dark. Adding some nice, actually adding little touches of red in there. You can't see it, but and this rock is also very dark, but not quite as dark as the others. This is, you know, a little changing in the light as the rock turns. So you just add a little water with a little color in the water, like raw sienna or something, to help turn that rock. All right, so this is a close-up of it all, and I'll back off in a second here, but I want you to see these rocks being painted. And there's the credit card again on this front rock. You can really see how it picks up the light of the rock, and there's some shadow of this rock hitting on the big rocks there. A little color on this large, big, beautiful stone rock on the right. Beautiful color. A little shadow on that rock up top. All right, so I'm going in now with, this is the same ultramarine with quin sienna to do the dark rocks with a, again, these rocks are all, you know, constantly being washed in by the tide, so they turn very dark, and they also have, you know, they're also in shadow, but, and this is where you can place, you know, you can place some smaller rocks on that beach that are just wet. They're just dark and dark in color and dark, you know, wet. And the key is to don't make them all the same shape, don't make them all the same size. You know, even color, you can vary the color. It seems the same, but you can drop some raw sienna in it, drop some red in it, you know, some warm colors to change. You don't want that dark to be black. You want it to have a warmth to it. Just working against the edge of the rocks on the right, that really, it makes them pop, so, you know. Okay. All right, so you just, I'm letting you watch here, but you just place these rocks here and there. You know, anytime you feel like it, just, you know, use your credit card to create more texture on them. You can see how I place them so they lead you back in towards that lighthouse. Now these rocks, you know, there's a little shade and it's all wet, you know, so you can make the shade and add some, a little bit of the Windsor blue to it, just to tint it towards a gray, you know, reflective color, you know, like water's sitting in the sand there. It's all good. It all helps you to, you know, lead you right in. All right. So let's paint the lighthouse now, and I'm giving you a close-up of that as well as I'm painting this lighthouse. There's a little pin on top. Now you can see how the distance is so small between the bottom of that canopy and the pin. You know, don't a lot of, like, as I said, a lot of students make it too big. And there's the enclosed sides of the lighthouse. Those windows are all blocked off so that the light doesn't shine on that side of the lighthouse where it's residential, as I said. I'm leaving that left side white for now. Okay, there's the platform. You know, it's an ellipse. Remember, you're looking up at it, so you can see a little bit underneath it. My paper is a little, tilted because it's on the easel, but it looks crooked, but it's not. All right. Putting a little shadow on that side of the pin. I guess I'm painting the whole thing. Yeah. All right. Little raw sienna here. I'm putting that, I'm basically painting the shadow side of this lighthouse. Just bringing it down. It's very weak, but you can see there's a little warmth to it. All right. I'm just painting that. Now I'm adding a little blue to that. This is just cobalt blue. Just, you know, putting a little, letting it run down. A little drop of Windsor blue. It's a good idea to use, and there's a tiny bit of rose to make it violet. You know, little variation in the color here. So I'm just bringing it down evenly. All right. And now that's just water. I'm putting a stripe of water on the edge so that it gives you a turn on the lighthouse. See that? It softens that edge, and I'm softening the white up there so it's a little reflective color. All right, I'm doing the tree here on the right. I used ultramarine and I used gold here, quinacridone gold with the ultramarine, and then I added a drop of rose. So it's, you can see that, you know, it's very brown. It looks very brown and warm. It works well with this painting, but it is also, if you look at the photo, you know, it's that time of the year where that tree is turning that color. But you don't need green trees. You know, you don't have to have green in every tree you do. And this is a good example of that. Works well with the composition. Just using the side of my brush to create those edges, bringing that down into the rock. So it's very dark in the deep part of the tree, as you can see. All right, I'm putting some ocean back there. That's just straight Windsor blue, very, very heavy right out of the tube, and now I added a little water to it. I'm just putting a stripe of ocean back there. Try to keep it straight. Okay, put a few gulls in there. Always add a little atmosphere to that Gloucester area. So many up there. One on this side. All right, I'm going to add a little schooner up off in the distance. As you see me do so many times, I just feel like it's a secondary point of interest out there, and it balances, gives you a little balance. All right, don't forget to paint the red roof on this lighthouse. This is just cadmium red with some cobalt blue to bring it down. You don't want that bright red. Okay, so it's just cadmium red with the blue. And then on the right side of that is in shade, so I'm actually just using, I think it's cobalt blue, I'm not sure. On the right side, okay? All right, well, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it, and I'll see you again very soon. Thanks for watching.